Hello everybody, and welcome to Whiz, your family-friendly podcast where we discuss D&D Onslaught, Dice Masters, Heroclix, and the other entertaining games made by Whiz Kids. I'm WizDad, and I'm not starting 2024 out well because I completely missed doing an episode on Wednesday. Don't worry, I'll try again next week. I'll promise I'll do better. I will be your guide for navigating the competitive and casual scenes of the Whiz Kids Triforce of gaming. It's Heroclix Friday. Today, I'm finally finishing up the 2023 recap of Heroclix with the second half of the year that I didn't cover back on the 15th of December. But I'll also talk about how I see the competitive scene playing out in 2024, kind of a little bit to piggyback on what I talked about on Monday, about what tournaments are going to be and how I think things are going to lay out. And I think you'll be excited about how I predict things are going to turn out. But first, as always, let's check out the Whiz Kids Progress Report.
Kowalski, Progress Report.
I hope 2024 is going great for you. I hope I sound better than I did on Monday. I feel a lot better. I'll go ahead and say that. I went back and listened to part of the recording afterwards, and sometimes you can't tell how congested or how sick you actually are until you hear your voice, and I found that out after I recorded, and it wasn't like I was just going to get rid of the recording. So here we are, 2024. It's June 5th. Not much has changed on the solicits front. There's still no sellswords 2 out there in the solicits for Onslaught. It's a little concerning. There's actually nothing for Onslaught in 2024 still. It's been brought up on the Discord, and I think they're going to look into it again. It's probably just a misnomer, I guess is the term. Probably that. It's a mistake. Clearly, Sellswords 2 is coming out. There's going to be more things coming out as well. We know that there's going to be, there's been talks of a new starter set at some point. I assume that's for 2024. I guess we'll see. And we can assume that there's probably going to be more factions or something, right? 2023, we saw a lot of Onslaught expansions really bringing out the game, at least faction-wise. And we saw the one expansion for Frogmire. It would be weird if they just didn't release anything in 2024. So don't worry, Onslaught fans. There's going to be some releases. I feel like there should be. I am, hopefully, knock on wood, going to work this weekend on a video detailing Onslaught for 2024. Why you should be excited for it, and kind of giving a little bit of predictions on how I think things are going to go, because honestly, if you go out there and look on YouTube, there's really not much about Onslaught past like the first half of 2023, so I'm going to try to create a new video to get whoever wants to look at it excited for Onslaught again. Heroclix, though, plenty to be excited for. Once again, January, still no date yet for Colossal Kong. It's still just showing January 1st. Cry for Blood comes out in 5 days on January 10th. To go over some more releases in 2024, don't forget we still have February listed for Next Phase. Next Phase has, which is the Disney Plus, they're just calling it Next Phase, has a release date kit. They have a pizza party for Hawkeye, which looks like a pizza box. They have a play-at-home kit with She-Hulk. They have a pizza party for She-Hulk. We've got a Gotham Villains monthly OP kit. We've got Sherlock Holmes Iconics. Then obviously we have the Next Phase booster bricks. We've got, man, goodness, there's a ton. There's Harley Quinn Roses for Red. And then there's the Next Phase Retail Chase Booster OP kits. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in the Fishing with WizDad, talking about how the competitive scene is going to play out. But I think that is the one area we're still not sure how it's going to work and how it's going to look, right? This is new territory, the retail chase boosters, and seeing how they go out and how many stores are allowed to get them. Remains to be seen. I'm cautiously optimistic. And then in March, don't forget we have the Deadpool Weapon X set. That's why I feel like Next Phase is more of a early February, and then Wolverine would be like a late March. So like I feel like we should be seeing pre-release related things for Next Phase relatively soon. Hopefully we'll get a Scott Porter video soon. He usually starts previewing things ahead, and especially with the strike over, if anyone didn't know that, strike's been over for about a month or so now, we should be definitely getting those videos. So here's hoping we get those Scott Porter preview videos pretty soon. We've got the Peacemaker Iconics also in March. We got the booster break. Deadpool is also getting a Chase Booster OP kit. I don't know if that's just going forward, that's how they're going to do it, like for every set, but I guess we'll find out, right? Hellfire Gala for the Avengers is in April. We got first appearance Wolverine, and nothing's really changed going forward. Still a bunch of the Iconics that I've talked about. There's pretty much an Iconics every month, or close to every month, until November. So if you like Iconics, definitely check that out. I know there's 2 Hellfire Galas planned, one for Avengers, one for X-Men. So basically like a second X-Men Hellfire Gala. That'll be in October. The Avengers one is in April. I can't wait for the Avengers one. I've been getting back into Marvel Snap, and they just recently did Hellfire Gala, and it reminds me of all the great sculpts and stuff. So I can't wait to see, like, the Captain America looks great. I hope we get a Moon Knight when he's wearing his all white, and it looks very chic. It's very nice looking. So I can't wait for the Avengers Hellfire Gala one in April, to be honest. Outside of that, currently the DC set in the summer is not yet hit the solicits. That's not crazy. I believe, let's see, when is when does that hit? Usually it's around January or February that we start hearing events. I guess March is when the Gamma Expo is. We usually get some stuff from that. But you know what? I'm hopeful that we'll start hearing more announcements this month, because we've got a lot of stuff in place, right? Like hoping that 2024 has more events, which I'm going to talk about here in a couple minutes in the Fishing and WizDad segment. But yeah, you know, it's been a quiet off season. Things are ramping up. Hopefully we will hear more stuff about the Rock Cup and stuff like that. But before we dig too deep into that, let's go ahead and jump into Fishing with WizDad. I'll talk about, let me finish out my recap of 2023. I kind of left it at States last time, talking about Avengers 60th, and I kind of ended it there. So let's jump back into there. Let me recap 2023 briefly, and then I will go into what I think is a deep dive of 2024.
Get your gear, little man. We're going fishing. And I mean now.
So once again, I feel like I apologize all the time, and it's because that's kind of the person I am. If I do something that I didn't mean to do, I like to apologize. So I apologize once again for the sporadic episodes that I've been having. I've just been busy with my personal life, and luckily school's starting back up next week, and so I'll have a little bit more free time during the day, during work, to record some of these episodes. So, jumping back into 2023, it may have been a bit since you listened to that episode on the 15th of December, but I ended things going into States, talking about the hope that Heroclix for Huntington left off last year, and the Avengers 60th, the taste of it that we got at the Rock Cup in that sealed event, left us hopeful going into States. The competitive scene at that point was really inundated with Sarkarian Iron Man, Scarlet Witch, and Carnage Silver Surfer was starting to make its progress forward, really starting to cement its place in the meta and to show just how oppressive it is. Also, that at that point, people had really gotten comfortable with the different lantern rings, and you could see that for sure in the tournament results, where you'll see maybe some Iron Spiders, for example. That was before, I believe, the errata that changed how the Sinister Syndicate TA worked. Like, it had to be printed. It used to be at that time, I mentioned before, that It just gave the keyword, and then you had protection, and it was kind of nutty for a little bit. That was kind of prevalent during that time. But, we didn't honestly, at Heroclix for Huntington's, have a ton of modern events to base it off of. And that's kind of what we're looking at for this year, but hopefully not. And so that's when we went into Avengers 60th. Avengers 60th released technically June 7th of last year. At that time, I believe we started having states tournaments. Let me double check that. Let me see. States started happening as early as... First states was June 17th, 16th. South Carolina was June 16th. So that was about a month after the Heroclix for Huntington's event, which was at the beginning of May. And that's where we saw our first dip into the format, right? The modern. Our first big hit into modern. Because remember, Heroclix for Huntington's was a Silver Age event. And so, looking at the early states, you see a lot of... There was some Arachnite, some World's Finest, a very kind of flexible meta in that early June, because obviously Avengers 60th was not yet legal. It wasn't until Washington that we started seeing Carnage Silver Surfer pretty much on every team, it feels like. A lot of teams with Carnage Silver Surfer. And let's talk about Avengers 60th and its impact. If you look back and, like, for me personally, when I look at Heroclix sets, I have, think of it like a mood ring, a mental mood ring of how you feel about certain sets. For me, thinking back about sets right now, I would say Batman has kind of a neutralish feeling. I feel good about the set based off of the rings, but that is soured based off of the figures that we got, because I don't feel like it was a great meta set. Spider-Man is, in my head, better than it actually was, as I mentioned, because there was not a significant meta impact outside of a very select few figures, and obviously the terrain markers. Avengers 60th, however, mentally feels better than a lot of previous sets. It feels better than Batman. It feels better than Spider-Man, even though there was no, like, new mechanic, right? There was nothing new in the set as far as, like, a bunch of rings and mystery cards and terrain markers. Those were in the set, but it wasn't like the founding set for that. And so Avengers 60th came out. We knew all the figures when the set came out. So we kind of got a little bit of extra time to live with it. And looking at the figures, if I'm just going through real quick. Throughout the commons, there's probably not a common out here that sees serious competitive play. You can argue Ultron Drone for Legacy Ultron, maybe. But outside of that, none of these are really have cracked anything. Jessica Jones is maybe one of the few when she could be switched out, but now I don't think she's relevant. She was relevant because she could give a character the detective keyword, which means she can play mystery cards. Now, obviously, I'm talking purely modern in this instance. Pulp-wise, even still pulp-wise, like, for me, I know Ant-Man became a big piece because of Fantastic Four swap. He has Avengers and Fantastic Four, so he was a decent piece to play to swap out for somebody else effectively and still keep it as like an Avenger theme team. In the uncommons for the set, man, still once again, not much. Beyonder is okay. Scarlet Witch is solid for pulp, so she saw a little bit of play. I know Misty Knight saw some play. She does something very similar to Jessica Jones, and is arguably better than Jessica Jones because she's 10 points less, especially if you're not swapping her out. She's definitely better for 30 points instead of 40. Beyonder saw some pulp play, but that's about it. It's when you get into the rares that things step up a bit. Falcon is arguably one of the most important rares we've gotten in a long time, thanks to his pseudo TK that he gives people. He effectively carries someone for 8 and drops them, and they still get to take an action. So, very good. Avengers Soldier keyword is the only way it works, but huge splash in Pulp, and even saw some play in Modern a little bit with Prime Spider-Man or something like that. So, very, very good piece. War Machine has become almost a sideline must during this time. He's lost a little bit because we lost Arcade and Iron Man, but Armor and Stark Industry keywords still are around, so he'll still see play. I will give credit to, like Tactical Force, Militant, even Prime Captain America hasn't seen, I feel like, enough play due to his capabilities with the mobile. With knockback damage coming back, he probably could see play, but it's hard when you have primes like Prime Hulk. Prime Hulk is no pun intended, a monstrous figure that impacted the meta significantly. Even, sure, because of the errata, before the errata, obviously, because you can heal him to top click in like turn 1 or turn 2. Even post errata, he's incredibly good for 10 points. So we're talking at least 2, maybe 3 rares, War Machine, Falcon, and Hulk Prime, that made a splash in the Pulp and Modern meta. That's already significantly better than Batman and the Spider-Man sets. Rares, you've got Super Rare Spider-Man, which gives Avengers keyword team player. That's great. Even Prime Thor, I think, is slept on a little bit. He's better than advertised at 70 points. That Pulse Wave not affecting adjacent, I believe that's what he does, right? Is it no, it still affects adjacent, but he could choose a keyword, and they modify damage when they're attacking Thor, an adjacent friendly character. He's got the Pulse Wave. Oh, and when he does doubles, they're dealt 3 damage. There's something there with that. You've got Miss Marvel, who saw a big meta splash. I played her at Nats because the fact that she could just get a keyword, so that means she got a free ring, which was great. And she's just a great piece because she gets placed when someone adjacent begins a move if she's tiny. So super rare that I still think is slept on a little bit, and I hope we'll see more play. You got Prime Absorbing Man, which is just a free sideline active piece that is great. And then we get into pieces like Starbrand, which I don't think has seen enough play. Clea made a tiny splash for a bit due to before her errata, because there was basically a build where you just couldn't target anybody within a range. It was a little nutty. And then we get to the chases, which are by far the most impactful chases in the meta in 2023 and maybe even the year before. And that is the engine, the support engine known as the Masters of Evil. Maybe the reason why we think so fondly of Avengers 60th is because every chase was impactful. Even Thor was somewhat impactful. And that's because they all work together. If you think of just the chases in Batman, besides Scrappy, nothing, right? Like they are neat, but they don't do enough. Even Batman doesn't. If you think of Spider-Man, it's really just Carnage Silver Surfer. And that's kind of it. The others are okay, but they haven't made a splash. Every chase, you could argue Thor, sure, has made a splash in the meta from Avengers 60th. We're talking Black Skull, Dark Phoenix, King Killmonger, Doom Supreme has seen play, Kid Thanos saw a rise. Even the Hound saw some play because of being able to swap in, and he's got Flurry. Ghost Goblin was and is still a very expensive figure. Iron Inquisitor, obviously, and the Ultra Chase, of course, has seen a ton of play. It is a well-oiled machine that costs 80 points if you consider one of the chases and Mephisto. You could play 2 of the chases and make it an even bigger machine, but it is one that is on so many teams, starting with King Killmonger. Kind of ridiculous how many teams have this on there. And that's not with their team up cards. With their team up cards, it gets a little better, but it's harder to play. And I think going into the Legacy, we even got some good Legacy out of there. With Ultron Legacy was great. Maybe we didn't get great Legacy out of here. Now that I look at it, Ant-Man was okay. Yeah, it's really just Ultron is the one that sets itself apart from the rest. But it's the chases, the fact that every chase is playable, and even if you pull one of the the worst one, it's okay because it works of a better machine. Now the downside is you need to own the good ones. You need to own more than one, at least, to make it work. But when you have a set that you're eager to get almost any of the chases, that makes it more desirable. You don't have any of those dud chases that you're like, man, I pulled a Fred. No, why'd I pull a Fred? But no, even if you pull a Hound, you're going to be slightly disappointed, but it's still part of a bigger machine. And I think that's why Avengers 60th feels like such a better set. All the primes, most of the primes are solid. Even Iron Man is a solid prime. It doesn't feel weak compared to the others. There are better primes, but that's okay. It's a good set, and I think that's why people still look at Avengers 60th fondly. It's a set that if I see on the shelf, I'd honestly consider buying just because of a chance of getting one of those chases, or the primes, to be honest. Even Absorbing Man Prime or Hulk Prime are still worth more than a booster. So maybe that's why I think Avengers 60th feels better. Going into states, with the explosion of Avengers 60th, I would say last summer was one of the best feelings of Heroclix. For leaving the Heroclix for Huntington's event, rejuvenated, revitalized, feeling great about the competitive scene, and then going straight into modern states, 2 to 3 months of modern states, of just getting back to back to back tournaments of results, seeing how different teams were doing, and you could see how they evolved from early on, where there was just a couple Carnage Silver Surfers, to Louisiana states where you have Scott Crampton with Scarlet Witch, Scarab, Carnage Silver Surfer, King Killmonger, the Commish, Green Lantern. Next team had Prime Spider-Man, the Commissioner, Scarlet Witch, Scarab. Next team had 3 Maggots, the Flash, Ghost Goblin, Prime Batman. Wes Summers in 4th had Carnage Silver Surfer. So you started seeing this. You started seeing the cream rises to the top. You start seeing where the meta falls thanks to states and thanks to having a lot of tournaments. We didn't get any more releases really outside of some Con LE figures and some iconics after Avengers 60th, because Notorious didn't come out until September. So you went into Nationals tournaments with kind of the meta set for a bit. We had some erratas that fixed some things, but really going into Nationals and going into Worlds, frankly, in September, you got Prime Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, still Scarab and Commissioner and Sky Tyrants, but less impactful. And then it was really just Carnage Silver Surfers, the Masters of Evil engine, and then whatever flavor of damage dealing you really wanted. And it could have been the Carnage Silver Surfers. And that's really what led us to Gen Con, which had some big announcements about the future and how, Iconics was doing so much better than us, the players, really thought. I didn't think Iconics would be so important, but come to find out, talking with the VP and whatnot, Iconics kind of revitalized Heroclix from a profit standpoint for WizKids, and I think that's why they've re-emphasized on, doubled down on Heroclix. Because remember, the previous year, it was really, here's Onslaught. Everything's Onslaught. There's a little bit of Heroclix, and we were kind of feeling a little bit down. Iconics, I guess, kind of brought things back. Brought Heroclix home, if you will. So that led us to Worlds, 2023 in Memphis. Fantastic event. I loved it. It was one of my favorite worlds. I got to play in Onslaught, got to play in Heroclix. Had a lot of fun with a lot of people. Dial H for Heroclix did a great job with the coverage. It felt like a really great Worlds, and there wasn't a ton I would argue, like I would complain about. The only thing I would say that could change is, and I've mentioned this on some of my early episodes of the podcast, is space could be utilized a little bit better. There were some big empty spaces that I think they could have put some tables out or kind of made it a little less weird, like empty. But otherwise, I think it was great. I can't wait for Worlds 2024. I think it was amazing. They also moved rotation for the first time to right after Worlds. Rotation traditionally was at the beginning of July. They wisely, I think, moved it to right after Worlds. But then they did, how to phrase it, I think they did a little too much with this rotation and cut a lot of sets prematurely. But I won't go too much into that. Just know that going into September, I felt like we really left on a high note. Worlds ended the season how it should have. Very impactful. Riding high on not just Heroclix, but Onslaught too. I felt like the Frogmire expansion was great. You could see the love and desire from the designers. Nicholas Yu was there at Worlds and heavily promoting the game and talking about it, and it was great being able to sit down and talk to him about the game. It was fantastic. So that's kind of where 2023 ultimately ended. I would feel like the rest of the year was kind of what I call the off season. The final 3 months, we did get Notorious and Wheels, so let me go through those real quick, and then I'll jump over to talking about going forward. My feelings of Notorious, I feel like, is the second place set of the year. I do feel like Avenger 60th was a better set, but I feel like as a whole, Notorious did a pretty good job. Like overall, I feel like it did a pretty good job. Looking at the sets, you could argue all the goons or most of the goons are relevant, especially Guardian Thunderer, because he can equip a Sinestro ring for free. Because they're all 15 points, they're all relevant in the meta. The problem is, judging how these two sets, Wheels of Vengeance and Notorious, how they did, is a little difficult because we haven't had a lot of tournaments since then to really judge their impact. So I'm going to be basing it off of my own opinion, which I hope you all value. If you're listening to this podcast, I think you do. I've been inundated with the HeroClix meta for a long time now, and I feel like I'm a decent judge of what I think is impactful pieces. But Guardian Thunder is by far the biggest common out of Notorious. The other goons would be a close second, but that's really it for the commons that see significant play. Lex Luthor maybe for pulp purposes. For uncommon, you've got Black Hand, who is your first Black Lantern of the set. He does a lot for Black Lanterns as far as like TK purposes and perplex, but ultimately he doesn't see a ton of play and probably won't see a ton of play. However, you've got Harley Quinn, who is a key cog in the Gotham City Underworld piece, the team, the keyword. I did do a video on the Gotham City Underworld keyword. Definitely check it out. I did a tier maker of it. Harley Quinn is huge, and she's huge in pulp. She will see some impact in modern for those who try to do a Gotham City Underworld. But definitely for pulp, she is amazing. Cyborgman is up there as well for pulp because he goes along as a taxi for Harley. But besides that, that's kind of it for the uncommons, which has been okay, right? That's commons and uncommons, that's all right. Rares. So rares, you've got obviously Necron. Necron will see modern play, 100%. He is what enables the Black Lanterns to heal past their starting click. He is a requirement for that to work. So yes, he will see play because I do think Black Lanterns will see play. Poison Ivy, I also think, is a very important piece in the meta. Significantly more for pulp, but I do think she will see play in modern. She's just very, very good for 80 points. Those Thorn Vines are great. It remains to be seen if the assassins, the targets, will see any play. I don't think so. The more I think about it, I don't think they will. But I wouldn't be surprised if like Prime Talon or Prime Ra's al Ghul or something came out of the woodwork and made an impact of some sort. And then going into the super rares, really looking at it, obviously, Harley Quinn's super rare, I think at 25 points is still really good. Just kind of giving that universal increase in damage if you build your force right. And then having Empower support the Underworld TA. It's all good. Like I think, and just the Justice Lord's power of if your opponent's figure takes damage, they take one unavoidable. If they're not KO'd, they heal it. That's if you're first player. I think that's a good ability also. So I think she will see play. But obviously out of the super rares, which we've talked about, probably like Harley might see play. Camo definitely will see play. He is a monster, once again, no pun intended, at 110 points. You might look at his dial and think, well, why? It's a hard 110 points to chew through. Once again, no pun intended, but man, am I hitting him out of the park. So, Camo needs to be on your list. Catwoman needs to be on your list. You know, a figure that has to be damaged 9 times. I guess technically 10 times? No, 9 times. You can't write off. Give her a ring of some sort or some sort of equipment, and she is really good. The Penguin is also pretty good. Kite Man, pretty good. Like, these are all pieces I could see splashing on the meta going forward. The chases, I will just say, like, just count on the Black Lanterns being there in some form, whether it's the Batman Swarm team, whether it's the Superman tank team, whether it's like an Aquaman Dolphin team. They'll be there. The Black Lanterns have capabilities because they can heal past their starting line. That's why Carnage Silver Surfer is so loved, is because he's just really good. I don't think they really pair up with Carnage Silver Surfer, though they do heal easier than he does, I believe, with Necron and some of the shenanigans. So keep them in mind. Black Lanterns will make an impact. We will just see. They've been having time to simmer, and I'm curious to see if people have just forgotten they exist, to be honest, because they really haven't had time to shine. The deceased figures, though, I wouldn't really count on any of those being modern. Someone might surprise someone, but, you know, half of the chases being very impactful, great. The Ultra Chase, the Zod Ursanon, that's going to be a meta one because it's another free, not free, but it pays 70 points, but it's one that it's a really good 70-point figure if you can get it on the board. And then Legacy, real quick, Calendar Man, absolutely will see impact. He is very good. Darkseid, maybe we'll see impact. He's kind of good. Brimstone, I'm not sure on Brimstone. Maybe. And that's kind of it for the Legacy. I know I like Hush. I know I kind of like Phantasm at times. But really for me, if you're looking at purely meta, definitely Calendar Man on the right months. Or the right day. And Darkseid. Those are the two I would try to hone in on. And I think are going to make an impact. So you've got a couple Legacy. You've got half of the chases. You've got some of the super rares. Some of the rares. And like one uncommon. That's better than Batman. That's better than Spider-Man. So that's why it goes up my list. I can't put it above Avengers 60th because half of the chases aren't that great. Deceased just kind of brings the set down a bit. But Notorious, I feel like, is a great set. I feel like it's a good one. It's number 2 on my list. And that's really because Wheels, I don't think, meets that level that I like. And let's talk about Wheels briefly, because there's no more tournaments to really talk about after Worlds. So real quick, ending out the year of 2023 is Wheels of Vengeance. Talking about impact from the sets, once again, hard to measure, but really it's like Night Nurse out of the commons. That's about it. You have obviously Hell Cycle Motorcycle. We'll see a big impact out of the uncommons. But that's kind of it. Rares, Zarathos could see some play. Blackheart, 100% a meta figure. Prepare your teams for Blackheart. He is incredibly good. So do not forget Blackheart exists. He is, once again, very, very, very good. But then that's kind of it. Like, Moon Knight's okay. Orb is good too. So I would put Orb in there. Zarathos, Blackheart, Orb. All figures you will see not only in Modern, but we'll see in Pulp, because they are very good in Pulp together. Super Rares is where I feel like Wheels really fails. Because it's really only Chthon, and it's really only Chthon in rare instances. I know he does sideline active. It's a dangerous one. I still don't think we have an amazing figure that can utilize it as well as you would hope. But it's really just Chthon. You could argue Ghost Rider, the one that allows you to keep your abilities, which is 048. It will see play, so that way you don't have any power blanking. Like that is key. So Ghost Rider could see some play, but even Headless Horseman, I don't know, is good enough, or Blade. And then the chases. Ghost Surfer, yes, we'll see play. Capwolf, yes, we'll see play. That's kind of it. I know I've talked up the other ones before. I think they're good. But once again, it's not just my opinion on what sees play. If it was just my opinion, then these figures would all see play. Because I think there's a lot of chases that are good. But knowing how other people play, it's really going to be Capwolf and Ghost Surfer. That's really going to be it. You might see occasional Wolverine and Sleipnir, but that's kind of it. Legacy-wise for the set, though, Jennifer Kale absolutely will see play. Her Queen of Untamed Weirdness, where opposing characters' combat values except range can't be modified when attacking this character or being attacked by this character, and that's friendly characters within 3, is huge. Is huge. That helps take down the high defense, the teams. It helps take down the Scott Porters effectively. I didn't talk about the Scott Porter Con LEs, but obviously they're the most impactful meta piece that we've gotten in years because of their cost and what they do. But Jennifer helps against those, triple perplexes you might get on defense. And she also helps when you generate bystanders. She makes a copy of it. So, as long as it's within range. So Jennifer will see play. Once again, I still love Two Gun Kid. I still need to get actually some. Now that I'm thinking about it, I need to write that down. I don't know if he'll make an impact. I'm still working on an Avengers team, and I honestly forgot he existed until I just looked at him again. So glad I'm doing this again because I forgot about Two Gun Kid. And then Daredevil will see an impact. Daredevil did get an errata to make it where he just can't not give up tokens, but the key thing about Daredevil is that he's still incredibly good. Like, he still has the good keywords, even though those aren't the keywords he should have. He's still very cheap. He will see impact. So that's why, Wheels for me is a solid third. WizKids really ended the year with 3 good sets. Avengers was great. Notorious was great. Wheels was good. I don't like Wheels as much personally, just because I don't like only getting 4 figures. That's really it. That's really why, even if they were the peanut bases, Twinkie bases now, I'm just not a fan of only getting 4 figures and paying the same price. So that took a little longer than I thought, covering the last half of 2023. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about 2024. I talked about it a bit on Monday, but we've gotten more news, and I want to talk about it a little bit more. We are starting the beginning of the year for Heroclix. It's the new season, the 2024 season, is kicking off with the Championclix tournament, the cup, essentially, the Open, whatever they're calling it. That's in a few weeks in Orlando in January. That's great. But there was that gap that we didn't have anything until the Rock Cup at the beginning of May, which we know is happening. Howard has said multiple times, Rock Cup's always happening. Heroclix for Huntington's, I believe, is still happening. So that is also at the same time as the Rock Cup. But we had that gap in the middle. Well, we have learned that that gap is going away for Heroclix. I've already talked about it from a Onslaught standpoint. Adepticon, which is March 20th through the 24th. It's in Chicago-ish. It's like in Schaumburg, which is west of Chicago. It's like a suburb, if you will, of Chicago. It's not that far from O'Hare, by the way. I've been looking it up recently. It's pretty close to O'Hare. Like a 20-minute, 30-minute drive, because O'Hare is northwest of Chicago. Northwest part of Chicago, and that's where Schaumburg is. So pretty close. But we have learned that there is going to be Heroclix at Adepticon. Originally, I knew it was Onslaught. I know that Onslaught has adapted this how should I phrase it? This championship-based tournament system where it's at cons. We saw it a little bit last year. We'll see it this year too. Of like the major conventions that WizKids has a presence. Gen Con, PAX Unplugged, Worlds, Adepticon. There is an Onslaught championship of some sort. And that's how they're tailoring it. They're basically saying, staff is going to be there. Let's make a championship out of it. Which is great. Like I love that, actually. I think it's great. I think that's how it should be. I think, have bigger tournaments, have Worlds, sure, have the national championship. But if WizKids is going to be at these cons anyway, Origins, San Diego, I know San Diego Comic-Con, they're there. Have a championship of some sort. Have a little trophy or a plaque. Doesn't cost much to make. Have good prizing, and just do it. They should back up some of their con LEs. They release their con LEs in the summer. Okay, we'll start producing them a little earlier. Or have some of their iconics and just give out iconics too, because goodness knows those are hard to get a hold of if you don't pre-order them. And so we learned that Adepticon is doing just that. There's an Adepticon 2024 Heroclix Championship. $30 entry. It's a 2-day tournament. Basically, there's day one. It starts, let's see, at 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's opening for 32. And then let's see, day 2 is 8. So basically, day 1 is just a 32-player tournament that cuts the top 8. It's modern constructed. So for those that are looking for modern in this leading up to Rock Cup, because I know Rock Cup is Silver Age, Adepticon has it. $30 entry. I think Adepticon is like $50, $60 to get into. And it's a decent sized con if you haven't heard anything about it. It's traditionally been like a big minis Warhammer, like non-collectible one. But because conventions are getting bigger and bigger, Gen Con, I think, hit the highest amount that they've ever had. Some of these mid-sized cons are seeing a lot more participation because a lot of people are saying, hey, that's too many people at Gen Con. Well, Adepticon, sure, it's grown. Let's go there. I want that nice, smaller feel. So there's Heroclix going to be there. There's BRs every single day. There's something they're calling Supercharged Sealed, which is pods of 8, and you construct a 400-point team from 2 Next Phase boosters and 1 Disney Plus booster. So they're kind of giving you the whole Disney Plus setup, because Next Phase, once again, is Disney Plus Part 2, effectively. And it says here, a prize pool consisting of a 2023 and a 2024 LE added for each player. So that is interesting. I didn't see that part. What about the prizing for... there's a prize pool starting for top 8 for the day 2 event of the championship. So I had already planned on going to Adepticon. Was originally like 70% going for Onslaught. Once again, though, Heroclix and Onslaught combat against each other when it comes to play. Never ceases to amaze me that they cannot ever have those two things separate. But, it happens. It stinks, but it happens. They're both on March 23rd. I will get there and decide which one I want to play in. and try to play them both. Probably not going to happen, but we will see. But key thing to note is that there's a tournament, guys. There's a championship. And I think going forward, to talk about my prediction for going forward, I think this is really WizKid's focus. I know there's been a lot of talk about WKOs, bring them back. People need to accept the fact that it's not happening. WizKids is taking a different approach. I think they're focusing on doing these championships because we've already seen that's the layout for Onslaught. And I think they're going to continue that because it doesn't cost them nearly as much because they've already got a presence at these conventions. They don't have to worry about shipping prizing to all these stores, though I'll table that for a second. They can focus on, hey, we're going to be at Adepticon. We're going to be at Origins. Maybe Origins will have a championship. We're going to be there anyway. We'll go there. We'll bring a little extra prizing, and we'll make a championship out of that. And it'll have, Onslaught has what I call the Chaos Emerald. There's a different colored gem that you get as a prize for each championship. We'll do that for Heroclix. People would love to get a little Chaos Emerald looking thing. And I think that's their plan. And have that effectively, if you count Adepticon, you count, let's say, Origins, let's say Gen Con, let's say Worlds, and let's say they go back to PAX Unplugged, even though I heard that wasn't great this year too. Let's say they do. Outside of Worlds, that's 4 championships are running a year. And arguably in 4 separate quarters. Right? Because Adepticon's quarter 1, Origins is quarter 2, Gen Con is quarter 3, and then PAX Unplugged would be quarter 4, and that's not counting Worlds. So a major championship each quarter run by WizKids, then you've got Worlds. I think that's great. I think that gives us something, gives us a tournament season starting in January, ending at PAX, which is November, so that really only gives us like 2 months. I think that's fine. What they're doing, I think, and a lot of players have kind of forgotten about it because they mentioned it briefly, but then it went away, was the store championship. Don't forget that there's store champions, that there's a special prize that your store can order, and I think the first one's like a Deadpool figure, like a unique figure for the store champion. And I think the reason people have forgotten about that, because they announced it at Worlds, they announced it, I think even at Gen Con, is the fact that they haven't said anything about it since. And they really need to. They really, really need to talk about it again. But don't forget that there is store championships. And I think that is what is meant to replace WKOs as we know it. And that stinks for some people. I loved WKOs, but I think we also just need to accept the fact that that's just how it's going to be. I think part of it is just WKOs were just thrown everywhere, and maybe all those stores don't exist. A lot of stores went under in COVID. And so looking at the slide, it says there's going to be an annual commitment to celebrating the Heroclix anniversary. There's annual store championships with a special champion Deadpool prize figure, and more information about store championships and Heroclix anniversary events coming soon. So I can see them using store championships as a method of replacing WKOs. And I know it says annual, so that's once a year. Okay, but if that falls in the spring, if that falls like in between Adepticon and Rock Cup, falls in between, maybe after Worlds, that's when they happen. Okay. That's fine with me. I think that's acceptable. I think having, 4 to 5 championships a year, Worlds, and doing these store championships, in addition to the monthly OP kits we're getting, the iconics, all the sets, I think that's fine. Honestly. Because you still have the rock stuff going on. You still have champion clicks. You still have states that are happening, which are sponsored by WizKids, right? Like, Modern States last year had, Batman factory sets of some sort? Or some factory sets, I don't remember. Or Chase Prime sets. So it's like, those are kind of loosely supported by WizKids. They provided all the prizing for that. So I am excited about 2024. I'm still sad I can't go to Champion Clicks Open, but I am happy that Adepticon has Heroclix now, because now that puts a big spot on my radar of saying there's Adepticon. I was going for Onslaught, thinking I wasn't really going to have much Heroclix until, the Rock Cup. But now, March now has something on my calendar. So I hope to see people at Adepticon. I hope we could do a big showing so that way we could show WizKids, hey, yeah, this convention idea is fine. It's a little bit more expensive, but that means you're not left with just going for one day playing Heroclix and then you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. Like, you can make something out of it, right? Like, there's other things to do at the convention. So I hope you're hopeful of 2024 like I am. We're getting a bunch of sets. We're getting, 2023 ended. It's hard to say 2023 ended on a sour note because it ends on a off season, right? So if the year ended after Worlds, then yeah, it was great. But set-wise, the last 3 sets we got, I think, were great. They showed some growth in how WizKids is designing sets. So I'm hopeful for next phase. I'm hopeful for Deadpool and Wolverine. And I'm hopeful for all the tournaments we're getting. I think it's going to be a great year. So thank you guys for listening to this episode of G-Wiz. I will be back Monday. Definitely Monday to do another Mashup Monday. And we will talk... I don't know what we'll talk about. I need to probably stop saying what I'm going to be talking about because sometimes I forget and sometimes I miss an episode. But either way, everyone have a fantastic weekend and I will see you on Monday. See ya.